What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today I have another video, one that I think is really exciting, and I want to talk about JRPGs. I am a fan of a ton of different genres of games, but far and away my favorite games are RPGs, and JRPGs are definitely the games I probably spend the most time with. We all know the classics. We know Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest and many, many more. Want to give a special shout out to Legend of Dragoon on the PlayStation, one of my all-time favorites. But today, I want to talk about some of the best modern JRPGs. These are games that came out somewhat recently and managed to make waves and somewhat change up the formula that fans have been all too familiar with over the years. Also, these are the JRPGs that I've personally had the most fun with recently. So let's kick things off, get going right away with a brand new IP that came out of nowhere and completely blew me away with incredible storytelling and a combat system that was fast-paced and required some true skill to master. The character and enemy designs were really well thought out, and it was just a blast to play. The story is told through a combination of cutscenes and kind of graphic novel style sequences. I personally love this because I enjoy both styles of storytelling. It also allows players to dive deeper into the other characters of the game if they feel the need to. And speaking of characters, right, there is a lot to love here in Scarlet Nexus. There are two separate campaigns that really focus on completely different perspectives of the same story that, when played and finished, provide a fully cohesive view into everything that's happening throughout the game. It's not just a gimmick here. It's not just to add another campaign with some filler with the same character and a different playstyle. Each story is a truly different experience with different supporting casts and entirely new ways to approach various situations, and even all new situations depending on which story campaign you're playing through. Now, it's easy to look at a new JRPG IP that lean heavily into the anime characteristics and say, hey, this is just another anime game. And if you're like me, sometimes that's all you want. I've played plenty of just another anime game and have enjoyed them a ton, but let's be real here. If you're like me, sometimes you need something new, and Scarlet Nexus scratches that itch. It does a number of things to set itself apart from the rest. It's a truly unique experience that builds upon its sometimes intricate gameplay mechanics to make a more than serviceable mix of two of my personal favorite genres, an action-adventure and larger-than-life JRPG. If you miss out on Scarlet Nexus, pick this one up, give it a go. I do think it's on PS Plus. It may even be on Game Pass. I'm not sure, but it's easy to get your hands on this one. It's not a waste of your time. I promise you, you'll enjoy it. Next on the list is Tales of Arise. The Tales series has managed to be a major tone setter in the JRPG space, with some of my favorites being Tales of Vesperia, Tales of Berseria, Abyss, Symphonia. But to be honest, after it's all said and done, Tales of Arise might be my favorite of all of them. I absolutely love this game, and it kind of took me by surprise. In the lead up to the release, I didn't quite anticipate that I'd love it as much as I do, but it didn't take long to hook me in. The art style right away jumps out as a huge positive. I love the cel-shaded look. This will hold up for generations to come, as we all know. The story is surprisingly dark while retaining the charm that I come to expect from a Tales game, and the combat is a spectacle to behold. This game came out early in the next gen PS5, Xbox Series X release, and we were all really looking for a great game that looks amazing, and I didn't expect Tales of Arise to be one of the first to really impress me with its environments and its colors and just the way everything pops. The settings are amazing, and I consistently felt surprised by the variation of each area. The story and characters are what really shine in Tales of Arise, though. The game manages to tackle some pretty heavy subject matter, but as I mentioned before, it picks the perfect time to inject that Tales charm, and that really stuck with me. The characters feel surprisingly relatable for some of these over-the-top scenarios we find them in, so much so that you may find yourself rooting for one character or another here or there, and be surprised by certain turns the story takes with each character's development. Overall, Tales of Arise will be on my all-time list of JRPGs for years to come, as I look back very fondly of the time I spent with this game. And hopefully, if you haven't had a chance to play it, you will too. Alright, next up on the list is Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Wow, what a game. I mean, Nintendo truly has something special here with this series. The unique combat, the vast open world, the deep character development, and a story that provides so many jaw-dropping twists and turns that it rivals shows and movies like Game of Thrones. All of this makes for an experience in this third entry that can't truly be matched by anything that's out there right now. I want to start with the combat though, because that's what makes Xenoblade truly unique. One look at that trailer showcasing the combat system and many people will find it overwhelming. But dive in and I promise the way it works is so naturally picked up by the human brain that the developers must have some sort of insight into how players think. I thought for sure I would have a hard time adjusting, but once mastering it, I found it to be one of the most incredibly rewarding combat systems I've ever used in a JRPG. It allows immense control over every single party member, almost to an extreme level at any given moment. Boss fights are larger than life, and every moment of combat is well thought out, and by the end, it'll have you sweating. The story of the entire Xenoblade series really carries weight and manages to touch on some pretty heavy story beats while maintaining incredible pacing through its roughly 70 or so hour campaign. I was hooked at every turn and never wanted it to end. I could play all the games in the series for an eternity. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 may even be one of those games that's on my island list. If I was stuck on an island and could only play one game forever, it might just be this one. There's endless exploration and side quests, and the combat never gets old. Xenoblade Chronicles 3, one of my favorite games of all time, and definitely deserves a spot on this list. Moving on to Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now, Final Fantasy VII is iconic, we all know that. Its characters and story will stand the test of time for sure, and when they announced the remake, everyone I knew was at extreme hype levels, and rightfully so. We, however, had to wait a very long time, and I mean very long time for the release, and it got to the point where we all started wondering if it would ever happen, and if it did, would it ever live up to the hype? And for me, it absolutely lived up to it. I couldn't have been more happy with the direction they went with this. Final Fantasy VII Remake may be my favorite game in the entire series now. The combat is a blend of turn-based and action-focused and manages to be engaging while retaining that strategic aspect that we come to love from JRPGs. We know we saw the complete flip of the combat system in Final Fantasy XVI, the more linearity. I feel like Final Fantasy VII Remake really balances what you want to see out of a Final Fantasy game with something new, innovative, unique, and it's just incredible. We all know and love the characters. The characters of Final Fantasy VII, also iconic. Cloud and Tifa, they really shine here. The updated graphics allow players to revisit places from the original game in modern graphical fidelity and just hit those nostalgia notes so hard. I don't think I've ever had more nostalgia for a game than I've had for Final Fantasy VII Remake. I absolutely can't wait for the next installment, but just seeing Midgar and going through those same quests and visiting those same places that I had when I was a kid, man, they just executed this so well. I do wish, however, they added some more openness to the game and allowed for more exploration and freedom to enjoy all the things that make this game so great. Luckily, this is a 3-part game series, and the later parts of Final Fantasy VII definitely open up and definitely become more larger in scale. So I will 100% be on the edge of my seat waiting for the next installment coming out at the beginning of next year. But if you somehow have been living under a rock, love JRPGs, and enjoy Final Fantasy games, you really need to get in on this one, and you need to get on it right now. Final Fantasy VII Remake is an amazing game. Now, what's a list of modern JRPGs if Persona 5 Royal isn't on it? Let's be real, Persona 5 is the GOAT. Persona 5 has seen a ton of iterations over the years. Strikers, Persona Q, a new mobile game, Persona Tactica, but Royal is far and away the best way to enjoy everything Persona 5 has to offer. This is the definitive Persona experience, and far and away one of the best JRPGs ever made, and solidifies itself at the #1 spot on my personal list. There is nothing out there that tops Persona 5 in style. The UI, the music, the characters, the atmosphere. Persona 5 Royal is something truly special, and once I picked it up, I couldn't put it down. I spent a ton of time getting the platinum for this one and really just going all in and doing everything the game has to offer. I've played it multiple times, and every time I play it, I notice something new or catch something I missed before in the story. It's a special experience for sure. Persona keeps the turn-based battle system that seems to be making its way out of many modern JRPGs these days, but it manages to add some bells and whistles that keep things fresh and exciting. Everything you do in this game matters. Things you do outside of combat and dungeons affect how characters perform inside dungeons in combat. The game truly combines the social aspect and the more combat-focused aspects in ways that are creative and seamless. Everything you do feels important, and no time feels wasted. Take your time is the motto here, and rightfully so. This is a game that really prides itself on all that you can do and the various ways that you can tackle certain situations. Persona 5 Royal's characters, gameplay, and story all make for one of the best JRPG experiences you could ever imagine. Do not miss this one. Persona 5 Royal is a must play. Even if you're not a JRPG fan, there is something to like here for you. Well, everybody, that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed this. These are my favorite modern JRPGs, and as we get further down the line, we've got more like Dragon Quest 12, Persona 6, and I imagine just so many more. I will be playing and talking about them here. If your favorite modern JRPG isn't on this list, then be sure to let me know in the comments below, and until next time, I'm out.